Coogs house. We are 25 years into this century, and we've seen some major leaps in the athletic department led by some big name athletes. But who are the best 25 Cougars of the last 25 years?
You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Cougs, the daily podcast all about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach Parker Ainsworth. And whether you're a Houston fan or just a hater came to step by, thank you for being at your first listen of the day, as you do each and every day, like the everydayer you are. If you want to join the conversation but you don't know what to say, tell us in comments down below if you like off-season lists like this, because this was a lot of fun to create. We made a 25-player list from the 25 best athletes of the last 25 years, because it's 2025. Today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Speaking of accounting, they help you with your money and finance. I'll talk more about them later. But I want to talk about this list, how we got here. The first segment's going to be, I should say, who's in, who's out. I want to spend a second segment exclusively on the top 5 Houston Cougars of the last 25 years. And last but not least, we'll talk about my flaws. I guess specifically my flaws making this list because it's just one segment. But first, the list. Now, we pushed this out on social media a lot. There were some hiccups there that we'll address in the flaws. But this list was selected by the fans. Houston Cougar fans got to pick who was in and out of the list. And so without further ado, the outside looking in, the just missed the cut list. Pitcher Brad Lincoln, 1.69 ERA. Elijah Hall, the sprinter. Damian Dodson scored 17.4 points per game but could not get into the list. Lucy Sharuk, All-American middle blocker. Ryan Wagner's an All-American pitcher. Peyton Turner was a first-round pick in the NFL draft. Savannah Hebner was a 4-time all-conference volleyball player. We also have Angel Shamlin, a starting softball pitcher, 3 times conference pitcher of the year. Michael Ferreras, an all-American golfer, did not make the cut. That's how tremendous the athletes have been in the last 25 years. All those accomplishments, none of them crack the top 25. Now, there were a lot of votes here, I should point out, and I should go to some degree. I don't know. The voting was fan picked, right? And so some of this I do think has to do with like when players played and stuff like that. Like Brad Lincoln was really good, right? Sancho Little, a women's basketball player, still has the all-time rebounding records, multiple of them at the University of Houston. She didn't make the cut, even for that list. And just I think some more recency stuff. But the top 25, number 25, Patrick Paul, offensive lineman, second round NFL draft pick. Everything as Houston went into the Big 12. Number 24, Shandy Jones, 3-time Conference USA Player of the Year in the early 2000s. Antoine Jean, consensus All-American relief pitcher last year. Again, a lot of love for that. Karen Fredgard is 22, All-American golfer. Jarris Walker, 21. Jarris Walker was the one-and-done lottery pick in the 2022-3 season. Kind of changed the landscaping of Houston Cougar basketball recruiting in a lot of ways, but also was a dominant player while he was at Houston. Number 20 is Yulia Pekolina, 2-time diver of the year across the entire NCAA and an Olympian. She also, fun fact, coached for the University of Houston. And so she comes in the list at number 20. The Olympians continue with number 19, Sean Maswanyani. Silver medalist in the relays, 4x1 relay for South Africa in the 2024 Paris Olympics. So impressive sprinter, to say the least. Brian Barraza, he's the first Houston Cougar to qualify for the National Cross Country Championships in 3 separate seasons. Back to the Olympics, we go with Louis Hinchliffe. He was a 4x100 relay bronze medalist in Paris, but is also an NCAA national champion in the 100-meter dash at 9.95, which is like faster than I drive a car. I don't like drive fast, but oh my God, that's fast. Brian Bethel is a sprinter, also competed in the 2020 Olympics. He comes in at number 16. So an impressive list there for 25 to 16. Good mix, I thought, of old and new. of early 2000s, more recencies. I mean, Antoine Jean just wrapped up his college career, right? Pat Paul was looking like the starting left tackle for the Miami Dolphins in his second year this year. Um, Jarris Walker, but you also went back and had some love for cross country and a diverse array of sports. And so really, really love all of that. The next set of 10, the number 15 to 6, you have to count things down. Number 15 was Kate Georgiadis. She was the Bear of the Year in 2 different conferences, 4th-team All-American. One of the craziest volleyball highlights I've ever seen in my whole life as well. Number 14, rest in peace to DJ Hayden, was a first-round draft pick with crazy college stats. He did just pass away in 2023, and I wonder if that recency helped his, relatively to other players in this or not, but he certainly is deserving of being in the top 25 just based on statistics alone. Was a big-time defensive player at a time when we kind of thought of Houston as an offensive school, honestly. A Crabtree softball pitcher. She came in and lists pretty crazy stat lines or stuff. If you go back and look those kinds of things up at a time when, I don't know, we all thought of Houston Cougars as a softball school. Tremendous softball pitcher in the earlier 2000s. Jesse Crane, another All-American pitcher as well. Aubrey Coleman comes in. He led all of college basketball in scoring in 2010. This is the pre-Kelvin Sampson era Houston Cougar basketball. I think he's, if I'm not mistaken, the only men's basketball player on the list from the pre-Kelvin Sampson era. So, for what that's worth, probably worth mentioning. Pat Edwards, God, one of my first favorite Houston Cougars. I mean, it shows my age there, but that's 13 All-Americans, a senior. He was a walk-on as a freshman. A great story as a wide receiver in those fun years in the first half of the 2000s. Man, had 318 yards against Rice, 43 career touchdowns. Yeah, I could go on it. But anyway, fun guy to have it come in at number 10. Number 9, Kevin Cobb. Just Victoria, Texas. Kevin Cobb, number 9. First true freshman starting quarterback in Houston history. He had 5,200 yards and 28 touchdowns. Conference USA MVP, offensive MVP as well. And kind of started this momentum of post-Southwest Conference Houston Cougar offensive football in a lot of ways. I think we think of Case Keenum as that, but Kevin Cobb certainly at the start of it. Marcus Sasser, back to more recent stuff, consensus All-American, Jerry West Shooting Guard of the Year award winner in 2023, also was a young guy on that 2021 NCAA Final Four team. Tremendous basketball player, and frankly was a face of the program. I'll just come back for senior year after testing the waters of the pros and really kind of launched another era of Houston Cougar another great era, I should say, of Houston Cougar basketball in a lot of ways. Really big did there. Anthony Aldrich came to Houston as a wideout, but ended up being a 2-time all-conference player as a running back. He comes in at number 7. He had a whopping 10.1 yards per carry in 2006. So again, Houston Cougar offensive football in full force. And number 6 overall in this list, I said 2006. Make sure I did say Quentin Grimes. Quentin Grimes is number 6, 3rd-team All-American in 2021. But perhaps most importantly, after initially going to Kansas, opted to return home and play for the Houston Cougars and was a leader on that 2021 Final Four team. Still a pro basketball. I guess he's searching for a home presently and some contract stuff in the NBA, but really helped launch this current iteration of Houston Cougar basketball as a national contender, not just a big-time group of 5 school, a true contender at a national stage. As far as the players go, now obviously not the only guy that could put with that but was a big-time recruit at a high school from the Houston area. Him coming back home was a gigantic deal. Now, speaking of guys staying at home, speaking of guys that are gigantic deals, speaking of guys that put the Houston Cougars on a national map, we're going to jump into the top 5 Houston Cougar athletes, according to the fans, of the first 25 years of the century in just a second. But first, today's show is brought to you by our buddies over at Monarch Money. Now, if you ever wish that managing your money felt easier, Monarch Money, it can be, whether you're growing your savings or planning on big purchases. Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch is more than just a budgeting app, though. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, spending all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Again, I coach, I podcast from a laundry room today. Regardless of what the case may be, I am using Monarch Money to keep all my things in one spot and see where things are going from that spot. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code Locked On College at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code Locked On College for half off your first full year. Parker Ainsworth, Locked On Cougs here, talking about the top 5 Houston Cougars, according to the fans, of the last 25 years. And I think it really shows the growth of the athletic department in the last 25 years that all 5 of these guys have played in the last 15 seasons. It is all men, and I think that might be short-sighted on the fans. We'll get to the flaws part of that in a second, but that's the third segment. This is about celebration, and these are the top 5 Houston Cougars the last 25 years. And truthfully, I stack this list up against any school in America. Right here at number 5, Greg Ward comes in, quarterback. Started off slow, played quarterback and wideout as a freshman. As a sophomore, was just a wide receiver until midseason. And then the next 8 games, he threw for over 2,000 yards and had 12 touchdowns. Also added 576 touchdowns on the ground. But then 2015 breaks out. American Athletic Conference Championship season, Offensive Player of the Year in the Peach Bowl that season. That's the win over Florida State that we all talk about all the time still. He had 2,800 yards passing and 17 touchdowns and an incredible 1,100 yards rushing with 21 rushing touchdowns. He's all-time everything in that. 2016 threw for 3,500 yards, had another 500 yards rushing and 10 touchdowns as well. He obviously also a Super Bowl champion with the Philadelphia Eagles and all that kind of stuff. I mean, he had a great career afterwards when he transitioned back to wide receiver, but in a very classic traditional Houston Cougar way, came to Houston, proved he could play quarterback, and won at the highest level doing it, and frankly put Houston on the map in the mid-2010s. Now, Tank Dell, I think Tank Dell should have been in the top 25. I don't mean to say that he shouldn't have been. I thought it was interesting that the fans put him 4th overall. This is probably one of those spots where I felt like some recency bias because he is a fan favorite. But we're going to get to that in a second. He had 2 different 1,300-yard receiving seasons. One had 12 touchdowns. One had 17 touchdowns. Those were his final 2 years at Houston. He was second-team All-American in a couple different publications. His 17 receiving touchdowns did lead the nation by kind of a nice gap, actually. And he was a fan favorite throughout the entire time. I think, though, it's interesting to see after he got drafted by the Houston Texans, and he's had an injury-plagued pro career, right? But Tank Dell has been a monumental piece of the culture since he left, actually, almost as much as when he was there. And I think that, him coming back, bringing C.J. Stroud, bringing other Houston Texan folks to the University of Houston has kind of helped elevate the program in a way that is why he makes the top 5 here, even if his production is maybe somewhere else on this list. I think he's important enough to the culture of the school because of those factors. Really, really interesting to see him here. But Nathaniel Tank Dell is an important part of Houston Cougar football culture, an important part of this list, obviously. And he could ball as well. Speaking of could ball, Ed Oliver, number 3 in the Houston Cougar last 25 years, 3-year starter, immediate All-American level impact as a defensive lineman, the highest ranked recruit to ever sign to come to the University of Houston. Keyshawn Henderson's pushing him in that category, but has not passed him yet in that category. After 3 seasons as a starter at the University of Houston, Ed Oliver would be the 9th overall pick in the NFL draft. Just an incredible dominant player on the defensive line for the Houston Cougars. And really, it was a 5-star kid that at the time in the program was saying, hey, I want to stay home and play for Houston. And we talk about doing that now. That's kind of the model now with building the program. you can't talk about that without talking about Ed. And Ed's incredible, and he's still got a great career going with the NFL, the Buffalo Bills. I saw pictures of him. I haven't watched Hard Knocks yet, but it sounds like he had a pretty cool game with this kid on Hard Knocks. Really, as far as Houston Cougar stuff goes, his 13 and a half sacks, 192 tackles in his 3 years don't really seem to do him justice. Like that stat line, as incredible it is as it is over a 3-year college career, does not do justice to what the impact was of having Ed Oliver on your football team. Now he did wear a jacket, and that led to a whole thing, but that's not for today's show. Jamal Shead comes in at number 2. Jamal Shead was the heart and soul of the last few years of the Houston Cougar basketball program. Clearly, in his final season at Houston, he helped put them at a national level that could not be ignored and has not fallen back from. Frankly, he was the Naismith and NABC National Association of Basketball Coaches Defensive Player of the Year. Both. He was the All-American, first-team All-American consensus his final season at Houston. He was a Big 12 Player of the Year. He had buzzer beaters. He had tip dunks. He had game-winning blocks, big-time defensive plays, clutch plays, big-time plays. Just a focal point of all things Houston in that final year, which was also Houston's first year in the Big 12. When Houston decided to make a name for themselves, listen, we are here to dominate the Big 12 conference in basketball. Jamal Shead was the face of that. That's not to say he wasn't also Defensive Player of the Year in the American. He's actually the second player in Houston Cougar history to win Defensive Player of the Year in 2 different conferences, or in 2 different years for a conference. He's the only one to do it in 2 different conferences, I should say. Now, JoJo Tugler could potentially do that as well before it's all said and done, but right now it's just he and Bo Outlaw. So credit to Jamal Shead there. He's one of only 2 players in Houston Cougar men's basketball history to have multiple 200 assist seasons. He and Reed Geddes actually both had 3 200 assist seasons, and so credit to Reed Geddes obviously too. But Jamal Shead, man, I just cannot say enough. It's wild when no one in America could stop him from getting downhill. And I'd argue that's like the 3rd best thing he did. Now, for my money, he was the best player in America in 2024. And had he not hurt his ankle in the Sweet 16 game, Houston is cutting down nets. But that's a hypothetical conversation for a later day. Jamal Shead, tremendous Houston Cougar, number 2 on our list. Because number 1's the GOAT. Case Keenum, true FBS record holder for career passing yards at 19,217 and completions at 1,554. Fun fact, our trivia question from last episode was, what is the school record for total offense? People kind of forget that Case Keenum could also run a little bit early in his career. He had nearly 900 rushing yards, which put him at 20,114 total career yards of offense. He also had 9 rushing touchdowns as a freshman. Again, he can move a little bit, guys. He can move a little bit. Dylan Gabriel did tie his career passing touchdowns record. Needed an extra year to do it because COVID. But Case Keenum is tied for the NCAA record in that as well. He's the 2-time Sam Ball winner, which is the top collegiate passer. He had a team 12-0 going to the Conference USA title game. He had 35 or more completions in 13 different college football games. He completed 70% or more of his passes 26 times, 4 or more touchdown passes in 17 different games, 534 yards and 9 touchdowns against Rice. But he had 6 total games, 5 other games with over 500 yards passing. He broke 400 yards passing 19 times. He had an efficiency rating of over 110, which means that you're over 65% completions and a bunch of different stats that you have really good games at quarterback. He was over 110 when a good game is 100 in all but 2 games of his collegiate career. Now, people would say, Parker, this is Case Keenum against Group of 5 guys, Conference USA, etc. He was 4-4 as a starter against Power 5 teams. They put up offensive showcases in most of those as well, even the losses. Some of those losses were just because they got outscored or didn't have the ball last, right? He was 41-16 overall. Case Keenum was just a flat winner. He's a record-holding winner in all categories. He was 8th in Heisman voting in 2009 and 7th in Heisman voting in 2011. And I think it bears questioning, what, obviously number 7's retired. I would say that all 5 of the guys we've mentioned, you could you talk about retiring the jersey. I don't know if you retired Tank or not, or Greg Ward or not. I think Greg Ward and Tank were in the same number, might make that fun. I think Jamal Shead's jersey belongs in the rafters. I think Ed Oliver, you can make an argument for three time, 3 for 3 being an All-American, right? But it's like, do we build Case Keenum statues? Do we put bronzes up for him? Like, what do we do to truly honor Case Keenum coming through Houston? Yeah, I knew when I put this out there that Case Keenum was going to run away with the number one. I just kind of figured like anyone with a heartbeat and a pulse or brain could have figured that out. But this was the top 5 in terms of a bar chart of receiving votes. Case Keenum ran away with this thing, and I would point out that that's the top 5. Like, look at the gap between Case and Jamal, even Jamal and Ed Oliver, as you go down the bar chart of who got voted in what spot. Speaking of who got voted in what spot, there were some flaws in this. This is not a perfect poll or anything, but it was a fun thought experiment to work through with you all. So thank you. I want to talk through what else came out of the poll in a second. But first, before we get too far, today's show is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Now, it's time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusions. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavors of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether sinking birdies or making memories with friends, this one is a hole-in-one for your energy gain. Let's be honest, sometimes on the course or off it, you need that extra. Okay, maybe you don't need that extra boost. I need every bit of help I can get on the golf course. This is that extra boost to stay sharp, energized, and I cannot make that excuse after having a 5 Hour Energy. I need it, and you do too. Trust me, golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. And the grape ginger lime is a flavor that gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to drink without chasing down that beverage cart. Go to 5hourenergy.com. That is the number 5hourenergy.com. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONGolf for 20% off your first order. This offer is only available till September 30th. On one order, cannot be used with other promotions. This code is not good on subscription orders, and whether you're meeting with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through or transfusion flavored 5 Hour Energy shots today. Parker Ainsworth, Locked On Cougs here. And as we wrap up the poll, I want to refresh the pull back of the top 5 here. Greg Ward, number 5. Tank Dell, number 4. Ed Oliver, number 3. Jamal Shead, number 2. Case Keenum, number 1. And while I do feel like the majority of that is correct, and I frankly do feel like all 40 players, all 40 athletes mentioned could have been in the top 25, there were some flaws. First of all, one flaw is a me thing. There were hiccups in posting. I had set to automatically post on social media a handful of different times while I was on vacation at one point, and it didn't. So it maybe wasn't front of mind for some fans, or I'll get back to that. Maybe not everyone filled it out. We did get in triple digits. We did have triple digits amount of people fill it out, but I think that a wider net would be interesting to see the results a little bit. It also, full disclosure, was a cumbersome thing to fill out. So thank you to the folks that did fill out the survey, but we probably do need a cleaner process for the 2050 one of these, right? I mean, just something to kind of clean things up. Now, I also asked for if you thought I had any omissions or anything, and 2 major ones came through. A couple people mentioned I didn't have Cameron Burrell on there. It was an elite short sprinter from 2014 to 18. Sounds right, both indoor and outdoor track. And truthfully, I kind of thought there might be, and thankfully there weren't, but a bunch of people like kind of mudslinging at different athletes that did or didn't make certain spots, right? How could you put so-and-so there? How could you put so like, and I didn't think I could stomach the thought of that with Cam Burrell, who died by, succumbed to mental illness in 2021. And so I just didn't want to have that on there. Obviously, like, it wasn't just about having athletes that haven't left this earth yet. Obviously, DJ Hayden, rest in peace, did make the list. But the particular surrounding of Burrell made me hesitant to put him on there. He probably makes the top 25 as a sprinter. We saw a bunch of sprinters on there. I didn't put anyone from last year's men's basketball team on there, which will probably be a glaring omission in the next 6 months, right? truthfully, I felt like there was going to be an incredible amount of recency bias if I did that, because it just happened. And while there's a real argument that it's the best team in program history to this point, I wanted to kind of actually have time to marinate on that before throwing them in there. I really think Juwan Roberts, LJ Cryer, those guys could have made the top 10, maybe 5 even. JoJo and Emmanuel Sharp and Miles Usain, though, like their career's not over. And so, like, if they turn to win the whole thing next year because Emmanuel's got 35 in the championship game, Emmanuel, it changes how we look at last year's team and season, right? Like that will shape things. It didn't really feel right to put them on there with the careers not completed yet. And it didn't really feel like right to put LJ and Jawan and those guys on there without their teammates, because that really was a true team. I had people ask Parker, why didn't you put coaches on there? Frankly, it'd be Sampson and the also rans at this point. Herman would have been an interesting one at what people think about Tom Herman and his couple seasons, right? And the short-lived success that was. Sumlin, I guess, to some degree too, but it wasn't quite the same. Didn't burn people the same way or whatever. Bryles and all that, but it would have been Sampson and the also rans, I think, as the coaches go. And I was more interested in the athletes. I'm just gonna be honest. It was me saying, you want to do the poll, you can do the poll. I was more interested in the athletes, and that. Listen, the other gigantic blind spot on my own I found on doing this is non-revenue sports before a certain date. I had to do a lot of research and asking around, and who do you remember, to people that I know followed it. And then also, I probably, in doing that, didn't list everyone that should have been. They were probably, undoubtedly, just in admitting my own flaws, probably a handful of people from before 2010 in non-revenue sports that I should have known to put on there. I enjoy women's basketball and was quick to understand who fits where in that, even when it was before I was really cognizant of it or could think back to it. But there are probably also women athletes that I omitted from the list of people that could be ranked and thus didn't give a chance to. That's my own like flaw in looking at the list as a whole. But on the whole, I do. But as a whole, but on the whole, I gotta figure out a different way to say things. I need a bigger vocabulary. More words, please. No, I do think, though, that it was a fun exercise. I really thoroughly enjoyed seeing what the responses were. Again, there were some things that shocked me. I wouldn't have put that person there or whatever. But I do think, on the whole, it was fun to have the nostalgic ride of, hey, the Houston Cougars have put out some really good athletes in the last 25 years. And when you think about where this little program has come from, 2000, this program was at the bottom, man. The Southwest Conference thing had fallen apart just 5 years earlier. You're looking at, like, what are we going to do next? And ultimately, what you're going to do next is spend 25 years clawing your way back into the Big 12 with a bunch of these names coming across, doing big time things. And what's the next 25 years going to look like? If that's the kind of growth looking in the last 25 years, where's Houston going the next 25, man? That's going to be incredible. Speaking of 2000, looking back, 2000 was the first season we looked at for athletes in this, and Dana Dimmel coached the Houston Cougars in 2000, back in the football days of Dana Dimmel. Start this window now. Jason McKinley played quarterback of that team. I want to ask, who led that Houston Cougar team, the 2000 Houston Cougar football team, in scrimmage yards? Not total yards. That'd obviously be McKinley. It's almost always the quarterback. But who led the Houston Cougars of 2000 in scrimmage yards? Tell us in the comments down below. We'll answer that question next episode. Locked On Cougs, Locked On Podcast Network. That means your team every day. Go Cougs.